I lost my home before I lost my marriage. 3 weeks ago, I moved into a one-bedroom across town with two duffel bags and a folder of paperwork. I didn't leave in a dramatic way. I didn't slam doors or take anything sentimental. I packed in straight lines: clothes, toiletries, work laptop, the warranty envelopes for the car, my passport, the kind of things you grab when you don't want an excuse to come back. The apartment smells like fresh paint and someone else is cooking. The windows face a parking lot. My neighbors don't know my name. That's fine. People keep asking what happened like they expect a moment I can summarize. There wasn't a single moment. There was one detail that made every other explanation impossible. And everything after that was just me doing what had to be done. Leah and I had been married 9 years. No kids. A dog that slept in a circle at the foot of the bed and shed into every corner of the house, no matter how often we vacuumed. She taught second grade. I worked in finance for a medical group, two boring careers and a quiet schedule, which I thought was the point. Our house wasn't huge, but it was ours. A two-story place on the edge of town, beige siding, small yard, a garage that fit one car, and a lifetime of boxes. The mortgage came out automatically on the first. We kept a paper calendar on the fridge because Leah liked writing things down. We weren't one of those couples that did big gestures. We did routine. We did groceries on Sunday, laundry on Wednesday, takeout on Friday. She liked Thai. I liked anything that didn't come in a bowl. We compromised without keeping score. If you'd asked me in October if anything was wrong, I would have said no. Leah had been tired, but everyone was tired. She'd been staying later at school because the district changed the curriculum, and her class had a couple kids who needed extra help. She came home with markers on her hands and that tight look between her eyebrows that meant she'd been talking over small voices all day. She'd kick off her shoes in the hallway and head straight for the sink to wash up. I cooked more, not out of martyrdom, out of practicality. I'm good at repeating the same 3 meals. She'd eat, pick at her plate, and tell me about a kid who'd gotten an A on a spelling test, or a parent who'd sent cupcakes that were somehow still frozen in the middle. We were fine. In late November, my mother had a minor surgery. Nothing catastrophic. I drove down to sit in a waiting room for 6 hours and bring her soup afterward. Leah didn't come because she had a school event. I didn't think anything of it. We didn't do everything together. We didn't have to prove anything. When I got back that night, Leah was on the couch with the dog's head in her lap. She looked up when I came in and asked how my mom was. I answered. She nodded, went back to scratching the dog behind the ears. Normal. December came with the usual panic. Gifts, holiday parties, the school's winter concert. Leah wanted to host her sister for Christmas brunch, so she cleaned in a way that made me feel like I was living inside a checklist. She pulled everything out of cabinets, wiped shelves, reorganized spices. At one point, she moved the bowl where we kept keys and small change from the counter to the little table by the front door. "We should keep it here," she said casual. I shrugged. Sure. It didn't matter. It was just a bowl. The week before Christmas, we had our neighbors over for drinks. Leah laughed at someone's story and touched my arm. And for a second, I had that feeling you get sometimes when you're in the middle of ordinary life and you realize you're lucky. Not euphoric, just steady. After everyone left, Leah stacked glasses in the sink and said she was going to take a shower. I started loading the dishwasher. The dog paced the kitchen, hoping for crumbs. I noticed the front door wasn't locked. I went to lock it and saw the key bowl on the table. Two sets of keys, mine and Leah's, sitting like they always did. I didn't count them. I didn't have a reason to. January was quieter. The holidays ended and routines snapped back into place. Leah went back to school, complained about how loud the kids were after the break. I went back to work, complained about end-of-year reports. The dog kept shedding. One afternoon, the garage door remote stopped working. It wasn't the car's remote. It was the handheld one we kept in the key bowl, the one we used when we went for walks and wanted to close the garage without being in the car. It had been dropped 100 times. The plastic was scuffed. I held it up and clicked the button. Nothing. Leah was at the table grading papers, red pen moving in quick, tired strokes. I said, "Garage remote's dead." She didn't look up. "Battery? Probably. Pick one up when you can." It was nothing. A battery. The kind of errand you forget until you're standing in line at the hardware store, holding two small objects and wondering why they cost $9. I meant to pick it up that week. I didn't. It didn't matter because we mostly used the car's built-in opener anyway. A few days later, Leah took my car to work because hers needed an oil change. That was also normal. We switched cars all the time depending on who had gas. She came home earlier than usual, parked in the driveway instead of the garage, and walked in carrying a paper bag that looked like it held takeout. She had that brisk energy she got sometimes when she'd had a productive day. "I grabbed you something," she said, setting the bag on the counter. I said thanks. She went upstairs to change. I ate at the counter, scrolling through mail and half listening to the dog's nails click on the tile. Leah came down wearing sweatpants, hair pulled up. She sat across from me and asked if I'd seen the new leash anywhere. The dog had chewed through the old one. "It's probably in the hall closet," I said. She nodded, got up to look. I finished eating. I folded the bag, threw it away. I started cleaning the kitchen because that was the thing I did when my head was full of nothing and I needed my hands busy. That's when I saw it. It was in the key bowl by the front door. Not mine, not Leah's. At first glance, it looked like any other small black remote. Same size as ours, same shape, same cheap plastic. But ours had a strip of duct tape on the back from when the casing cracked. This one was clean, new, and on a plain silver key ring with no keys attached. I picked it up out of habit, like I was just organizing. I turned it over. The back was smooth, no tape, no scuffs. I pressed the button without thinking. From inside the house, you can hear the garage door motor when it engages. It's a low mechanical whine. It started immediately. The garage door was opening. I stood there still, remote in my hand, listening to the door lift. The dog's ears went up, like he expected someone to come in. I pressed it again. The motor whined the other way. The door went down. I didn't move for a moment. I didn't need to do anything else with it. The thing had already done what it did. Leah didn't buy a new remote for the house. She didn't tell me. She didn't leave it with the dead one. It was in the bowl like it belonged there, like it had been used enough to have a place. There are only a few ways a third garage remote appears in your key bowl. One is that you buy it yourself. You go to the hardware store, get a compatible remote, bring it home, program it with the opener. It takes a few minutes. It's not hard, but it's a process. You have to open the garage, reach the motor, press the learn button, pair it. It's a thing you notice because you're standing on a ladder in your garage. Another way is you request one through the company that installed the system if you don't want to do it yourself. That takes a call, a fee, an appointment. Someone shows up. You're home. Either way, it isn't something that happens invisibly, and a third remote doesn't exist for no reason. It exists because someone else needs access when you're not there. I held it in my hand and looked at the empty key ring. No car key, no house key, just the remote, clean and ready, like it was meant to be carried. I didn't think about passion or romance. I didn't picture anything. My brain doesn't work like that. I thought about logistics. Someone had the ability to open my garage door. That meant they could enter through the garage into the house if the interior door was unlocked, which it often was because it was just Leah and me, and we were careless inside our own routines. It meant they could pull into the garage and close the door behind them, invisible from the street. It meant there had been time and space for that to be useful. I didn't need a confession. I didn't need to catch anyone. The remote was either for a reason I knew about or a reason I didn't, and I didn't know about it. I put it down gently, like it was fragile. I didn't want the button to click by accident. I walked into the kitchen. Leah was still in the hallway, rummaging in the closet. I could hear hangers shifting. "You find it?" I asked. "Not yet," she said, voice muffled. I went upstairs instead of standing there. I told myself I was going to grab something from my desk. That was true. I was going to grab my laptop and my folder with important documents and my passport. I wasn't ready to admit that yet. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the dresser. Nothing had changed in the room. Her hairbrush was where it always was. The laundry basket was half full. The dog's blanket was folded at the foot of the bed. It was almost worse that it all looked the same, like the house didn't know. I waited until Leah went back to the kitchen. I listened to the cabinets open, the fridge close. I stayed upstairs longer than I needed to, letting my thoughts settle into a shape that didn't require drama. When I went back down, Leah was at the table again, papers spread out. She glanced up. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. It wasn't a lie. I wasn't panicking. I wasn't crying. I was just recalculating. I didn't say anything about the remote. Not because I was gathering evidence. Not because I wanted to trap her. I didn't want to hear an explanation. I didn't want to get pulled into a conversation where words were used to smooth over something that was already sharp. That night I slept. Not well, but I slept. Leah fell asleep quickly, as she always did. I lay there and listened to her breathing even out. The dog shifted once, sighed, went still again. In the morning, Leah left for school. She kissed my cheek by the door, quick and automatic. "Love you," she said. "Love you too," I replied, because that was the script, and I wasn't ready to break it out loud. After she left, I stood by the front window and watched her car back out. Then I went to the key bowl. The third remote was still there. I picked it up and walked to the garage. I stood inside and looked up at the motor unit. The Learn button was on the back panel, a small square. I didn't press anything. I just looked at it. It was like staring at a locked drawer in your own house and realizing you don't know who else has the key. I went back inside and opened the drawer in the kitchen where we kept instruction manuals. I found the garage door opener manual. I wasn't planning anything complicated. I wanted to know how many remotes were paired. Some systems list it, most don't. The manual didn't help. So I did something simple. I unplugged the garage door opener. That meant nobody's remote would work, including mine. That was fine. I could open the door manually if I needed to. It was inconvenient, But inconvenience was a small price for the quiet sense of control it gave me. Then I sat at the table with my laptop and pulled up our shared bank account. Not to hunt, just to check something I should have known already. Whether there had been any charges that matched buying a remote. There were groceries, utilities, the mortgage, a couple takeout orders, her usual coffee shop swipes. Nothing obvious. That didn't mean anything. She could have paid cash. She could have used a different card. I didn't go further. I closed the laptop. At noon, I drove to my office even though it was my day to work from home. I needed distance. I needed fluorescent lighting and co-workers who only talked about spreadsheets. I called a locksmith from my car in the parking lot. I asked for an appointment to change the locks on my house. The man gave me a time the next morning. That was the first irreversible thing I did, and I did it without feeling like I was crossing a line. The line had already been crossed. I was just acknowledging it. That evening, Leah came home. She noticed the garage door was closed but didn't open with her car remote, so she parked in the driveway and came in through the front. "Garage stuck?" she asked, setting her bag down. "Opener's acting up," I said. She made a face. "Great." She didn't ask more. She didn't go check. She went straight to washing her hands like always. We ate dinner. We talked about nothing important. She told me a kid had lost a tooth in class. I nodded at the right spots. I put my dishes in the dishwasher. I made sure my hands didn't shake. The next morning, Leah left again. I texted my boss that I'd be in later. I didn't need an explanation. The locksmith arrived at 9. He was a middle-aged guy with a cap pulled low and a calm way of moving, like he'd seen every variation of domestic mess and had learned not to react. He changed the front door lock, the back door lock, and the door from the garage into the house. I watched without making conversation. When he handed me the new keys, they were bright and clean, with sharp edges. "Want any duplicates?" he asked. "No," I said. After he left, I unplugged the garage door opener again, then decided I was done pretending. I went to the key bowl and took the third remote. I put it in a drawer in my desk and shut it. That afternoon, I called a lawyer. Not a dramatic one, a small local firm that handled divorces like they handled wills, quietly, efficiently, with forms. I made an appointment for the next day. Leah came home and didn't notice the locks. She used her key the same as always. That told me what I needed to know about her awareness. If she'd given someone access, she hadn't considered the risk to me. Or she had and didn't care. Either way, the result was the same. I still didn't confront her. I still didn't ask about the remote. I didn't want to hear a lie delivered with eye contact. I didn't want to hear the truth shaped into something smaller. That night, Leah said she had a teacher thing the next evening and would be home late. She said it casually, like it was a normal inconvenience. "Okay," I said. I watched her face for a flicker of hesitation. There wasn't one. The next day, I went to the lawyer's office on my lunch break. I sat in a waiting room with beige walls and old magazines. When I met with him, I said only what was necessary. "I'm married," I said. "I'm leaving." He asked why. I told him we'd irreconcilably broken trust. He nodded like he'd heard that exact phrasing thousands of times. We went over assets, the house, the cars, retirement accounts. He asked if there was infidelity. I said I had reason to believe there was, and I wasn't interested in debating it in court. I wanted a clean split. He told me what filing would look like. He told me what I should gather. He told me how to protect myself without escalating. I paid the retainer with my own account. That was my second irreversible thing. That evening, Leah came home late like she said she would. I was sitting at the kitchen table with an empty mug, waiting, not to confront her, just to see if she'd look different walking through the door. She came in, cheeks slightly flushed from the cold, hair a little messy, like she'd taken it down and put it back up. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. She started talking about how exhausting the meeting was, how one of the other teachers wouldn't stop complaining about administration, normal content, a normal tone. I watched her set her bag down. I watched her hang her coat on the hook. I watched her reach automatically toward the key bowl, like she was checking for something without thinking. She paused for half a second. Her hand hovered. Then she pulled it back and walked into the kitchen. That was it. That was the only thing I saw. The smallest hesitation. Like she expected something to be in the bowl, and it wasn't. I didn't need to ask what. I stood up and went upstairs. Leah called after me, asking if I was going to bed already. I said I was tired. In the bedroom, I opened my desk drawer and looked at the third remote. It sat there, innocent plastic. I closed the drawer. The next morning, I told Leah I needed to talk about logistics. I didn't say us. I didn't say feelings. I said logistics because it was a word that didn't invite performance. We sat at the table. She looked wary but composed. "I'm moving out," I said. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. "What?" "I signed a lease," I said. That was technically true. I'd toured the apartment the day before and put down the deposit online after the lawyer meeting. Leah stared at me like she was waiting for the rest of the sentence to make it make sense. "Why?" she asked. I didn't answer with a story. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I didn't say the word affair. "There's been a breach of trust I can't live with," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" I stood up. I walked to my desk in the corner of the living room and opened the drawer. I brought the third garage remote back and set it on the table between us. Leah looked at it. For a moment, she didn't react. Then her face did something small, like a muscle tightened under her cheekbone. It was quick, but it happened. "What is that?" she asked, voice too careful. "It opens the garage," I said. She swallowed. "So?" "We had two," I said. "Now we have three." Leah's fingers moved like she might reach for it, then stopped. She didn't pick it up. "Where did you get that?" she asked. "It was in the key bowl," I said, like it belonged there. Leah shook her head once, slow. "You're being ridiculous." I didn't respond. Her shoulders lifted, then dropped. "I can explain," she said. I didn't ask her to. I walked to the hallway closet, pulled out two duffel bags I'd packed the night before, and carried them to the front door. Leah stood up fast enough that her chair scraped. "Wait," she said. I set the duffel bags down. I put my new set of keys in my pocket. Leah's voice rose. "You're leaving because of a remote?" I looked at her. "I'm leaving because you gave someone access to our home without telling me." "That's not," she started, then stopped. Her eyes flicked to the front door, then back to me. "You don't know what you're talking about." I didn't argue the point. The remote didn't care about her words. I picked up the duffel bags again and opened the front door. Leah followed me onto the porch, barefoot, hair still damp from the shower. She said my name once, sharp, like she was calling a kid back from the street. I walked to my car and put the bags in the trunk. I got in, started the engine. Leah stood on the porch, arms tight against her body. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just watched, like she was waiting for me to fold. I backed out and drove away. That afternoon, I went to the courthouse and filed the divorce petition my lawyer had prepared. I handed it to the clerk, watched her stamp it with the date, and walked